Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Inside Spread podcast. I am your host, Kenny Farrell. This is a very exciting day for us. It's the very first episode of the Inside Spread podcast. Just want to thank you for being here and come back each week as we explore different areas of hunting, fishing, shooting, and conservation. Today, we're talking about the cartridge that's changing the game in the Midwest for deer hunters. It's the 350 Legend. If you hunt in Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, or any other straight wall states, you've probably heard about this round. Maybe you've even made the switch, but maybe you're still on the fence wondering if it's worth the investment. Either way, this episode's for you. We're going to break down what makes the 350 Legend so effective for whitetails, why it's becoming a go-to choice for so many hunters in these shotgun zones, and what you need to know before buying your first rifle. My guest today, Travis, has taken multiple deer with his 350 Legend, and he's going to share some real world experience with it, the good, the bad, and the honest truth about how this round. But before we get into that, we're going to just tell you a little bit about the Inside Spread and why we're doing this podcast. The Inside Spread started because I love hunting. I grew up learning from my dad, spending time in the woods, building skills, connecting me to the land and the animals we pursue. Over time, I've realized that there's opportunity to explore what it means to be a hunting community. We want to focus on content that's authentic, there's no BS, and focused on real hunters and real stories and real skills. It's not just about grip and grins, but about the preparation and the mistakes, the lessons learned, and the pursuit itself. That's what the Inside Spread is all about. We're building a community of hunters who value conservation, skill building, and honest conversations about what it takes to be successful in the field. Whether you're chasing whitetails in the Midwest, elk hunting in the Rockies, or hunting predators in the backcountry, we want you to connect with you with the information, the stories, and the people who can help you become a better hunter. And now we're taking that mission to the podcast world. The podcast is an extension of everything we're doing at the Inside Spread. Every episode, we're sitting down with hunters, guides, writers, outdoor professionals who are living the life in the field. We're diving deep into hunter strategies, gear that actually works, conservation that matters, and stories that connect us to the land. And before we bring in today's guest, I want to mention a few ways that you can support the Inside Spread and connect with us. First, we have partnered with people like Academy Sports and King's Camo and Raven Crossbows. And when you shop through their affiliate links, which I'll link in the show notes, we earn a small commission at no extra cost to you. It's a simple way just to support our podcast while getting quality gear for your next hunt. And second, join our community at theinsidespread.com. Read our articles, join our community platform that we will be rolling out shortly, because I really think that the sportsmen of today need to stick together in these modern times to ensure our future is bright for hunting, fishing, and the outdoors. Third, you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook for other hunting tips, gear reviews, and updates on new episodes. And finally, if you enjoy the show, please leave us a review wherever you get your podcast. It takes just 30 seconds to help us out to reach more people like you. All right, that's enough from me. Let's bring in today's guest and let's learn about 350 Legend. It's going to be a good one. Thanks, everyone. Well, welcome to the first ever episode of the Inside Spread podcast. We are excited to be here. It's been a long time coming. We wanted to be something that's exciting for our audience to connect with other hunters, share real stories, and build skills. So we're excited to have Travis, one of our Inside Spread writers, on today. Welcome, Travis.
Thanks for having me.
So you've done some writing for the Inside Spread, of course, and you got some other background that you've worked on in the past. Tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm stationed in Michigan. I'm a freelance writer now, but my background in the past includes Field and Stream, Outdoor Life, Wide Open Spaces, GearJunkie.com, uh, just a whole host of different sites that I've written for over the years, different publications in the outdoor world.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, again, thank you for being here today. The major reason why we are here today is to talk about 350. I personally don't know much about 350, so I'm glad to have Travis here to kind of walk us through it a little bit and tell us a bit about it. And so here's the first question: why should hunters care about the 350 at all?
Yeah, so the 350 Legend is it's a very interesting cartridge, and it's very much a regional one. So we're talking like Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Iowa. I believe Maryland also has some straight wall cartridge regulations in there. And basically, this is a specialty cartridge that kind of popped up in response to new laws that started allowing rifles where they previously weren't allowed. And we'll talk more about that as we go along. Exactly what makes this thing special and why hunters in these states should have a look at it.
So, first of all, just to, again, get some basics out of the way, what kind of got you interested in writing about firearms and maybe more specifically about the 350?
I've just been a lifelong hunter, and it's just it's very interesting to me to kind of share the knowledge that I built up over the years about these things and to learn a little bit more, kind of do a deep dive into the ballistics and what it's good for. So that's always really fun to do.
Well, it seems that the 350 Legend is becoming more popular, especially in straight wall states, as you mentioned. But beyond just it being something that is now legal in those states, what makes it appealing to hunters?
I think it's just the ability to reach out to longer ranges in those states. Um, you got to remember that in a lot of these states, for years, it's been shotguns only, shotguns and muzzleloaders and
Yeah.
handguns. And in 2014, that's when Michigan decided to start allowing they're basically pistol caliber uh, uh, calibers. Um, but the traditional thinking was that our area was just so flat and there just wasn't a lot of backstops. And southern Michigan is so densely populated, and so it's kind of a safety thing.
Mm-hmm.
I did some deep diving trying to figure out exactly when a lot of these states adopted these shotguns and muzzle loaders only rule, and I can't really dig up when it happened. I know that it was like that for my entire life. I was born in '84, so I'm pretty sure it was like that for years before that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a little bit limiting when you can only use, like a 12 gauge slug in smooth bore. I knew people that were shooting out to 100 yards. I was never comfortable with that.
Mm-hmm.
So now I feel pretty comfortable up to 100 yards. And there are multiple deer that have gotten away from me over the years when I only had a shotgun in hand. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, man, if only I had this in hand, then I'd be a lot more confident in being able to take those longer shots. Um, Winchester really uh, kind of promotes this round as going out to 200 yards, and I haven't had a chance to really test it out to that yet, but I feel like pretty confident that it could do that. Which in this part of Michigan, I mean, that was unheard of, you know, like 20, 30 years ago,
Yeah.
unless you were like really irresponsible.
Yeah. I mean, growing up in Minnesota myself, and mostly in northern Minnesota, like we were shooting past 50 yards. That was a long shot because there's just too many trees in the way. You can't really. There's no reason to go beyond that.
That too, my area is so dense with trees that some of the spots where I'm in the back, it's like you just don't have a shot that long.
For sure. So, how does the 350 Legend perform on whitetail in the typical Midwest ranges? 50 to 150 yards. Is it a true do-it-all cartridge?
For whitetails, yes, it's a very effective cartridge. I've harvested two whitetails with it. My uncle killed one with it. Um, First one I shot with it dropped on the spot. The one my uncle shot dropped on the spot. I shot one last year. That was a 65-yard shot, and he went about 70-ish yards. He didn't go very far. Um, I'll talk more about that later because I do have some nitpicks with this thing, but
Yeah.
it performs very, very well, and pretty much everyone I know is really happy with it. I think the big thing on why this one really took off is just because it's low recoil. I compare it to like a 410 with slugs.
Hmm.
Like a 410 is nothing, and that's pretty much what this is. Um, and I think that's why it kind of took over some of the other cartridges that were popular. So like the 44 Magnums and the 357 Magnums, which some people were shooting, and the 450 Bushmaster, which was the big thing. That was the first straight wall I bought, and I ended up not liking that just because it had so much recoil. But it's so pleasant to shoot. It's cheaper to shoot than some of the other straight walls and some of those other uh, pistol caliber carbines. So it's just got a lot going for it in terms of whitetail hunting.
Very interesting. I personally, I shoot a 270 and have since I was really young, really until like since I could. Before that, I was shooting a 30-30. So like, learning about this stuff is interesting to me. I think I could, then see myself maybe giving it a shot, or specifically if I have to go to a Midwest state that requires it, then I know what I'm looking into.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it's funny you mentioned the 30-30 because this thing gets a lot of comparisons to the 30-30 in terms of ballistics. Um, but like the DNR rules are, it can't be a bottleneck cartridge. It has to be straight walled.
mhm,
Um, and so the ballistics are pretty close. The 30-30 is better in pretty much every category, but for a straight wall, this is it's great. I've really enjoyed it. I feel very confident when using it, and I think that's the big thing that kind of helps out when you're out there hunting.
nice. So then maybe talk just a little bit about maybe are there some limitations that a hunter should know about that?
Well, again, if you're looking to shoot like probably past that 200-yard mark, from what I understand, this is not the cartridge you're going to want. Um, like I said, it is very much a regional thing. I have seen it used in other case uses. There was a video online of a guy, I think he was in Alaska or somewhere, but he harvested a mountain goat with this round. So it is capable of doing some other things, but if you're going to be like that far up in the mountains and everything, I'm not sure I would take it for that. Especially when you can use other cartridges. They're going to go much farther, uh, going to give you a little bit more power. Uh, but for whitetails in the Midwest, I mean, this is the thing that does it. And the biggest thing I've noticed with this round when using it is that it doesn't give very good blood trails. The first buck that I shot, he dropped on the spot. There was not much blood there. It did not pass through. Um, Same thing with that buck I shot last year. Did not pass through, so there was blood only coming out of one hole, and I it was actually raining that night, so I had to get my blood trailer light out, and uh, that made it a lot easier. I mean, if you're going to get this cartridge, get a blood trailer light. You're
Mhm.
just to make it easier on yourself. But it was a little bit more visible in the daylight when I went back the next day and I checked it out. But in the light, in the rain, it was hard to follow. I mean, I would have found this buck anyway because
Yeah.
he didn't go very far. I mean, it did a number on him. But that is something that is of a concern. And if you start digging around, especially for like these Winchester power points here, like these do not have a good rep online. Um, for
Mhm.
for that exact reason. And I don't know what it is about the construction of them or whatever that does that, but that's just what one of the that's probably the biggest drawback that I've noticed.
Is there maybe you can just kind of walk through some of the more details on the ballistics and things like that, just talking about, specifically,
Sure.
what the cartridge is about.
Sure. And I think that's where a lot of people in other states who don't have straight wall rules, they probably get confused because they'll see something like this Winchester Deer Season XP, and they'll see that it's got a muzzle velocity of 2,325 feet per second, 1,800 foot-pounds of energy. They'll be like, why would I want that? And I can go get a 30-30, or I can get, you know, something bigger, if I
Hmm.
can go get a 6.5 Creedmoor, get over 3,000 feet per second. Um, I know it's led to confusion. I've seen it on Reddit. People are like, why would I want that? It is. It's very much a regional thing. Um, but really, for my part of Michigan, where most of my shots are under, you know, 100 yards, I mean, it's absolutely perfect. Like I said,
Mm,
when I shot that buck last year, 65 yards, I mean, that's a shot I wouldn't have taken with my shotgun.
yeah,
Um, I just don't feel confident with that, with a smooth bore and just like a Foster style slug. But, with a polymer tipped, bullet like this, I mean, this groups beautifully at 100 yards. Um, and the bullet sizes, they range from, I've got some 145 grain full metal jackets here, which I usually use to sight it in.
mm,
So about 145-ish grains to about 180 grains at the largest. Um, you know, the I like to compare it to the 450 Bushmaster because that was what I started out with. I mean, the 450 Bushmaster, you can get, big, heavy bullets. So I've got like a 300 grain bullet here,
dang,
just a giant. But this thing will eat up your shoulder. I mean, it. I compare that to my 12 gauge.
yeah,
Uh, it just and you don't really need that for Midwest whitetail. I mean, this 180 grain polymer tip, I mean, did just fine on uh
yeah,
on that buck. But I also have these Winchester hollow points. These are like a jacketed hollow point. These are 180 grains, so this is about as big as you get when
hmm,
it comes to the 350 Legend. But these are doing 2,100 feet per second, 1,700 pounds of muzzle energy. Uh, More than enough to kill a Midwest whitetail, even the biggest ones.
yeah,
Even if this cartridge looks pretty small in my hands, I mean,
yeah.
it does a number on them.
So that kind of brings me to another question, like, with the, feet per second being a little bit slower, it, is there criticisms about like, you know, it just because it doesn't penetrate, or is there even a chance that a deer can react a little bit just because it's quite a bit slower, or what are some of the other kind of public criticisms, not necessarily more technical ones?
Well, I think that's why it doesn't penetrate as much. Like I said, both those deer did not pass through is because it's a little bit slower, and it's one of those things where you got to kind of it's give or take on in
Yeah,
terms of a thing. I like the 450 Bushmaster, like that's gonna go through it, no problem. You're gonna get massive blood trails with that, but you got to deal with the kick of it. Um, and that's the other thing. Like, 350 Legend really took off with like the youth hunters. We've got a youth
hmm,
season, and kids don't want to shoot this.
yeah,
This is intimidating to a kid to shoot one of these 450 Bushmasters and just have it beat their shoulder.
yeah.
But
10 shots of that
350
and they're
Legend,
sore.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. This thing made the 450 made my shoulder sore after some long range sessions with it. Um, that was with a Savage Model 110. I had someone email me one time. They were upset when I criticized the 450 for that, and they said that their single shot was a lot more tolerable. I can't. I think it was like a CVA or something they had. They said that. So I don't have experience with that. I can only tell you my experience with that Savage was not a pleasant one, and that was with a muzzle brake on, which is surprising. Um, but I do not have a muzzle brake or any muzzle device on the 350, and it's just so much more tolerable. I can go out there and shoot a whole box of rounds, and it's just much more pleasant to shoot.
Yeah. You did mention something I want to talk about a little bit is costs. You said it may be a little cheaper than something similar. Uh, you know, what is the cost like as far as not just the ammo, but also, when you're looking at a rifle for it, what are you kind of looking at as far as, your all in costs? You can break it down if you want to.
Yeah, so I have a Winchester XPR, and it's got like a kind of a faux stainless permacoat on it, which actually I found out later is like a Michigan exclusive. Oddly enough, Winchester is making this gun only for like Michigan, or it might have been a few Midwestern states, but it's harder to find. That gun costs, I think I paid around right around $600 for it. but it's a very smooth action, very crisp trigger. Not the best trigger on all the firearms that I own, but I also traded in my 450 when I did that, so it was probably with my optic, it was probably around $800 somewhere in there. You can do it for way cheaper than what I did. You know,
Yeah,
I spring for a little bit better gun. As far as the ammo goes, I mean, it varies. Um, so I've got these Winchester PowerPoints here, and the price on the box here is 35.99 for the jacketed ones. Uh, the full metal jackets, which you would use in practice, I mean, you're looking at $20 for 20, so about a dollar
hmm
around. And the 150 grain polymer tips, those are 41.99. And usually I can catch some sales throughout the year. I keep a close eye on like Dunham's. So you can go in there and you can get some bargains.
yeah,
Um, but uh, like some of this stuff, oh, I don't have the price tag on these Hornadies right here, these 450 Bushmasters, but these were, I want to say they were close to $50.
yeah,
So it's more expensive to shoot the 450 for sure,
yeah.
as opposed to the 350.
Uh, is it pretty widely available as far as brand and such like that?
Oh, absolutely. That's the great thing about it. Especially here in the Midwest, it's everywhere. But I was actually surprised. I did a media event down in Texas with Academy Sports, and we went to an Academy Sports store, and I was like, "Dang, they got 350 Legend down here in Texas."
Hmm
And actually, it was cheaper in Texas than it is in Michigan, oddly enough. Um, if you know, if I hadn't flown down there, I probably would have bought several boxes to take back with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's widely available. I think that's the other thing about the 350 Legend is it works pretty well in an AR. So if you want to build like an AR with this, it works beautifully in that. And so I think there's some guys down in Texas who are utilizing it for like hogs and stuff like that,
Yeah,
just because it cycles so well in that kind of a platform.
that's cool. That's yeah, it's certainly good to know that it's easily found. There's obviously some more specialty cartridges that you might not be able to get so easily, or the cost could be
Oh yeah.
prohibitive as well. If somebody was to be in the market for their first straight wall rifle, what are some recommendations that you would give them?
Well, I think I would just think about, you know, who's this rifle going to be for? You know, if it's going to be like a youth hunter, you know, you can get away with like a simple single shot if you want to teach like basic firearm skills. That's the other thing this is good for. This is good for teaching like basic firearm skills to someone
Hmm
new because it's not going to be super intimidating. Um, it really depends on what you want, really. But like I said, if you want something that uh, can be used, you know, to hunt hogs or something like that. You can build an AR out of this. I use the Winchester XPR that I use. It's a simple bolt action. Um, you know, and I don't really need anything more than that in my part of Michigan. Um, so yeah, it really does. It depends on what you need, um, and what you're looking to spend. And the great thing about it is that they offer just a wide range of offerings for this rifle. You can get a single shot, you can get you know an AR, you can get uh just a simple bolt action.
hmm But well, is there any other things that maybe a consumer might need to know about it before making a purchase? Just kind of like nuances or details or anything else that you could think of that would be helpful for somebody looking at their first 350.
You know, I can't really think of much. Just know that uh the range is not going to be what you're going to expect from a bottlenecked cartridge. That's probably
Hmm
the biggest thing, you know. I mean, we're talking about 100 to maybe 250 yards at the most. That's how Winchester really kind of promoted it. I At the start, I think they took a lot of them to Iowa and they gave them to influencers there, and you know, kind of the same thing in Iowa. I mean, you've got wide open spaces, but you're not going to reach all the way across the field with them.
Yeah.
Um, Depending on how big the field is, of course. Like the most wide open spot in my area is about 200 yards. But, if you're used to hunting in those kinds of areas, I mean, this is going to be right up your alley.
Awesome. Well, that's really all my questions about I have for the 350. I appreciate you taking me through it step by step. I think it'll be really helpful for people who are, interested in potentially purchasing it. Uh, yeah, I think for me, I don't hunt a ton in the states that are, the Midwestern straight wall requirement. But if I were to go there, especially with my son someday, I think it would be a great option for us to be able to, look at the 350. It seems like fairly inexpensive as far as getting into it. And so being able to do all those things, I think, it sounds, almost like a no brainer. Obviously, there's always options. You get choices and things like that. But it seems like a very good opportunity for somebody, especially young or new into shooting.
Yeah, Michigan is kind of weird in the way that, they did this because the southern part of our state is just so much more densely populated. So that's why it was shotgun only to begin with. But
Mm-hmm.
like once you go past like the midpoint of the state, you can use basically whatever you want.
Yeah.
Um, and it's really weird. They've got like a really convoluted line, and you got to read. I'm glad I don't live in those counties because it's like so convoluted. Like you can't shoot, your 6.5 Creedmoor south of this road past this thing. It's really kind of dumb. Um,
Yeah.
but it is a good solution for those scenarios where you just can't use a different kind of cartridge. One of the big complaints early on when uh Michigan introduced this rule was uh I can't use like a 45-70 government because the regulations state that it can't be longer than 1.8 inches on the
Mm-hmm.
case length. So, I mean, if you look at these two cartridges, the 450 and the
Yeah.
350, you can see how close those
Yeah.
cartridges
Almost
are in turn.
identical.
I mean, they're much longer.
Yeah.
It's actually funny because I recently learned that there's some kind of private ammo manufacturers now who are making a shortened 45-70 government specifically for use in southern Michigan. They've trimmed the case down quite a bit. Um, so it is kind of a quirky round in that regard that
Mm-hmm.
it has to fit under these certain goofy regulations. I mean, this was basically introduced um, in response to these states loosening these rules. Like uh, it was 5 years after Michigan introduced these rules that Winchester's like, you know what? There's a market here that we haven't really tapped into, and you can find these things all throughout southern Michigan. Every single store is selling this stuff.
Yeah. And when you're talking about several hundred thousands of people in southern Michigan and maybe other, some other states nearby, you're talking about that's actual real market. It isn't just a one-off just for southern Michigan, though it may be focused on that. There's there's still a market there that allows them to, make it financially viable to even make it.
Yeah, and I should have mentioned this earlier, but we should talk about why the Michigan DNR decided to do this in the first place. And I have noticed since, the late 90s when I started hunting, like the number of hunters is just, it's fallen off a cliff.
Yeah.
Um, every year I hear fewer and fewer shots when I'm out there. And so this was kind of the Michigan DNR's like, okay, we need to have something else to keep people in this. What can we do? You know, so bringing in rifles in a limited capacity where you've never been able to use them prior to this. That was a big deal, and I think it did help to retain some hunter numbers. Most of the shots I hear nowadays, I mean, you can tell 350 from a shotgun blast and you're
Yeah.
out there, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
I hear a lot more 350s or 450s, definite rifles as opposed to shotgun blasts out there. I mean, hunter numbers are still going down, but I do think that this helped kind of slow the bleeding a little bit for the Michigan
Mm-hmm.
DNR. And I think that's why a lot of these states adopted these rules. Um, it's kind of interesting because I was trying to figure out which one of them came up with this idea first, and so I did some research, and I can't find out can't figure out which one did it first.
Yeah,
Somebody did it, and they realized, hey, this is a great idea, and then all these other states here follow suit. So it's really interesting.
yeah. I think that honestly, that's those Midwestern states. I think that's why bow hunting had took off in a lot of those states is just because the restrictions that were there. There, people could easily get into bow hunting and get the opportunity that they want without having to, go buy a different rifle just for that area. And so that could be a play into it as well. Obviously there's, when it comes to policies and rules, there's not always a paper trail of where all those things exactly came from. But obviously we want to keep giving opportunities to people. And I think this is a good, kind of in between versus, going back to the bottleneck uh, cartridge. So yeah, I think, like I said, it's a
My,
good opportunity for me if I was ever to, go into a straight wall state.
my long-term prediction is that if hunter numbers keep dropping in some of these states, that they will loosen some of these rules eventually in some of these bottlenecked cartridges.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it may be a while off still. Um, in that case, if they do, I might not carry this as much anymore. But
Yeah, for sure.
uh, for now, it works great. You know, um, Pretty much everybody I know is using this cartridge just because of the advantages over a shotgun. I mean, it's just so much more reliable, uh, so much more accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like I said, it depends on the quality. It depends on your gun. For instance, these Winchester PowerPoints. One of the reason I switched from these is just because they were a little bit flaky, in my opinion. They didn't group the best. Then I started shooting these polymer tipped 150 grains, so drop the bullet weight down from 180 grains to 150 grains, and it just groups a lot nicer. Um, feel a lot more confident with that. So you might have to play around with that stuff a little bit, but once you get that gun dialed in, I mean, it just gave me so much more confidence. Kind of changed the way I set up in some spots too, because it's like, you know what, I can reach out to that spot right there if that buck comes out there, and that's an advantage. It really
Yeah.
is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the flexibility too, like for those people that may not want to buy several guns, they might want to just have one rifle hunting gun. They can definitely use it in multiple places. So I think there's some good flexibility there too. And, you know, obviously, like I said, it's not maybe not as good as the bottleneck features that they have on 3030, 270s, and 308s and all those things, but it still will get the job done. And some, especially a
I
kid
mean,
can
you
use
could
it
take
from the time they're 12 until they're, until they get to buy their own gun.
Yeah, I mean, you could take this to another state easily, and it's going to be legal there.
Yeah.
If you wanted to go down to Texas and use this, they might laugh at you a little bit, but if you kill a big buck with it, they're not going to be laughing very
Yeah,
long. So
for sure. Maybe you'll
for
get a hog
somebody
while
who,
you're there.
yeah, for somebody in the Midwest, who's looking to, kind of take the jump from, the traditional shotguns, and maybe they're frustrated because, again, there's limitations to slugs. I mean, slugs have gotten better, but a rifle is going to outperform, a slug at a distance every single time.
Yeah. Yeah. The smooth bore versus, you know, a rifle's bore is just so, I mean, it's night and day. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't deny the difference there. So, yeah. Well, I think we kind of covered this one pretty good. I know we got another episode coming up soon. We're going to talk about the 6.5 weather BRPM. So that's kind of what's on
Yeah.
deck for us to talk about that one in the future. But what else do you got coming up on the inside spread?
I got a few little articles I still need to work on. I just wrapped up one on high-end hunting brands the other day, which I just submitted to you yesterday, of course.
Yeah.
So people can look for that. Um, it's been kind of fun the last few years. I've had the chance to test a lot of different clothing brands, and that could be a discussion all its own, I think, on here, just talking about, you know, because I know everyone's noticed, like, why are these brands so friggin' expensive when you go in the
Yeah.
stores? And in my experience, there's a good reason for it, and I kind of go into that in the article.
Yeah,
Um, but I also kind of talk about, you don't need it, but it's kind of a long-term investment kind of thing. So,
for sure.
so that's
Yeah,
probably the
I just bought some stuff for my son who's 12. Obviously, he's been growing quickly, and so he's starting to get into some adult sizes. So I just bought him some adult,
yeah,
camo that he can wear for the next 5 or 6 years. And yeah, I spent a little bit more money on than maybe I could have. I could have gone really cheap on it, but knowing that he's probably going to wear this for at least until he's 18, that kind of that draw to me to spend a little bit extra, like I said, is a good investment. So I would love to have a conversation about that in the future too. So yeah. Well, we're just gonna wrap up here. Thank you, Travis, again for coming on today. We got some conversations coming up in the future that we will have him join the podcast for. Thank you for coming today, and thank you for checking out the Inside Script podcast. This is our first ever episode, so welcome, and hopefully we will do a good job, and we'll get better as we go, and it will be more fun, and we'll learn a lot. So thanks for joining us today.